Hello.
Hello, and welcome to
Nightmare
Nightmare Nation,
favorite paranormal podcast.
the podcast
I
that is. Oh,
go ahead.
should we start over?
Nope. Keep going.
This podcast that's being temporarily brought to you over Skype because coronavirus is making us all stay home.
Ruining it.
Yep.
And our governor decided to extend our stay at home until May 4th. So,
Which is probably a good choice. It just means we have to find some workarounds for recording. So here we go. You're going to have to pardon the audio quality for a little while.
exactly, until we're back on our feet, ready to record from Annie's bedroom.
Yeah, or my closet on the rare occasion.
Which was only once.
Yeah. And it didn't really sound any different from usual, so.
No.
I'm
right.
Annie.
I'm Anna.
And this is a podcast where we talk about scary things and haunted places.
And all sorts of spooky things and crazy phenomena that happen that are unexplained.
Yeah, could be ghosts, could be UFOs, could be demons.
All right, friends. So tonight, well, actually, technically today, since it's 3:00 in the afternoon on a Sunday,
And it's freaking blizzarding on Easter. Thanks so much.
It is. It's absolutely disgusting out. Aren't we in a winter storm right now?
We could be. I don't really pay attention to the weather because, stupid me, I just assumed it'd continue to be lovely and 60 degrees. It was 60 degrees yesterday.
Yeah. No. This is Minnesota. This is what we live in. It's freaking awful.
Yeah, for any of our listeners who don't live in this crazy state we call home, you're going to see 70-degree temperature swings over the course of 24 hours, and you'll go from thunderstorms to blizzards to sunshine in less than a day.
Yeah, we pretty much go through all 4 seasons during this time in about 2 days, and it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. The only thing I can say is hopefully it'll all melt shortly because it'll go back to being warm, but that's probably wishful thinking at this point.
Well, I think it's going to because next weekend is supposed to be in the 70s.
Thank goodness.
So,
only in Minnesota would you have a freaking blizzard and then 5 days later it's 70 degrees out. I just don't understand.
I mean, yesterday was like 65 and I was outside without a sweatshirt on and we went for a hike and it was beautiful. And now it's just a fucking blizzard and it's disgusting. I'm over it.
Disgusting. So happy Easter, everybody. Enjoy the snow.
All right, friends.
All
right, friends. We are taking you to the Augustine Lighthouse in sunny Florida. Wish I was there right now. It'd be so warm.
I know, so different from this horrible, dismal weather we're having.
So, dive into the history of this lighthouse. It is, well, I already told you, it is actually an active working lighthouse. It sits on the Anastasia Island and was built between 1871 and 1874. It was the first lighthouse on this little island. So according to some records, the house was placed on the site of an earlier watchtower that was built by the Spanish as early as the late 16th century, which I thought that was pretty cool. So in 1737, right? It's just so old.
Yeah.
So in 1737, the Spanish authorities built a more permanent tower for Quina. I did not research. You know what that is?
I don't, but I read it somewhere in one of my articles too.
Okay, perfect. I didn't search what it is. I'm assuming it's probably some sort of brick or something, would be my guess, because I'm sure that's probably like the only material that they had.
Oh, it's a type of limestone that's made of like shells, essentially.
Oh, okay, perfect. Well,
yeah, so they probably like harvested it from the beach, so it's like this kind of rock that has mollusk shells in it, I guess. The term coquina comes from the Spanish word for cockle and shellfish.
Oh, that's weird.
Isn't that
So it
fun?
was shellfish tower.
Yeah, that's so cool.
That'd be fun. So there aren't many records as to what exactly it was used for, and they weren't sure if it was actually used as a lighthouse or if it was just used as like a watchtower. So then in 1783, the Spanish took control of St. Augustine, and that was when the lighthouse was improved. So this, I got like everything from Wikipedia. Thank you, Wikipedia.
Hey, Wikipedia.
But when I was reading through the article, they had two separate dates that don't really match up to when the lighthouse is actually built and finished and when the old building was like torn down that used to sit on there. So it said in 1880 that the island faced erosion and changing coastlines, and the old tower crashed into the sea. And the tower ruins are submerged and is considered an archaeological site. But then it says in 1874 that the new tower was completed.
And what was the date of when it was supposed to have collapsed?
1880.
Oh, so it collapsed after the new one was built after the old one collapsed. That doesn't make any sense.
Okay, that well, unless
I guess if they built the new one like nearby but not like on the exact site. So they like built the new one and then the old one collapsed?
I think so. That would be the only thing that would make sense. Because after reading that, I was like, you can't have an old building collapse, what, like 6 years later and then build a new one 6 years before?
No one guaranteed that Wikipedia was going to be accurate, though. I mean, it could be wrong.
So there's some discrepancies with that. Sorry if this isn't proper history. You can go see the museum and then tell us what the actual dates are.
Yeah,
but anyways, we just go to every other place that we've talked about.
Yeah, exactly. Major road trip. 30th birthday road trip.
Yes, we will just road trip the whole United States.
Let's do it.
Okay, so back to our lighthouse. So for 20 years, the site was run by head keeper William A. Harm. I think that's his last name. He was a Union war hero who commanded his own battery at the Battle of Gettysburg. I thought that was pretty cool.
That is so neat.
Which we should do, right? I feel like we need to do Gettysburg as our next topic because I find Gettysburg so fascinating.
It is fascinating, and I'm sure there's just like so, I mean, with all that death and everything, there's got to be some interesting stuff there.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, here we go. When the lighthouse was first up and running, they used lard to burn in the, I'm not like fully sure how lighthouses like are like how they were run, so I'm assuming it was like an old kind of like a lantern almost, except for just on a giant scale. So they use lard to burn to essentially create the light. But then in 1885, it was converted to kerosene, which that was pretty cool. And then in World War II, the lighthouse was used as a lookout point for enemy ships and submarines because they were known to come close to the shores of Florida, I guess. And then, yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't think of like Florida of being a big area during World War II, but I guess I don't know that much about it.
Right. And in 1936, it was when the light turned into electricity, and then in 1955, it was automated. So because of the automation of the lighthouse, they didn't need as many keepers at the lighthouse as they did when it was used like with kerosene and lard. So in the 60s, like I said, they didn't really need any keepers, so they essentially kicked out all the keepers because they didn't really need them. And the houses on the location, they were rented to locals, which was, I think that'd be freaking sweet.
I was just gonna say, that sounds amazing. I would 100% rent that house. Like, that
Yeah.
is so cool.
That's like when there's a, I think I told the story in like episode 1 or 2 or something about the lighthouse we stayed in Lake Superior.
Yeah, you
I
did.
can't remember freaking, I think I want to say it's in Two Harbors, I think, maybe.
I think that's
Or,
what you said when you told the story originally.
it's wherever Castle Danger Brewery is.
I think Two Harbors sounds right, but I'm probably wrong.
Okay. There's a little lighthouse, and it's just like the coolest thing to see because it was a little 3-bedroom little house, and then we got access up into the actual tower of the lighthouse, and we got to see it going around and like be in the tower, and it's just the coolest thing ever. I don't know. I find lighthouses so fascinating.
Mm-hmm. That kind of reminds me
So
of
then,
like, oh, sorry, I was gonna say, did you ever see the Lighthouse movie? Did we talk about this?
I don't think so.
It's so weird. The one with Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe.
Nothing ring the bell.
Yeah, it's the one that's like all in black and white, and it came out last year, I think. And I remember when we saw trailers, you and I were like, we should watch this.
Yes, I
It
remember
was
now.
so weird.
Was it
It
good?
was, I mean, if you're into like super art house, like it kind of reminded me of Midsummer, but on like the weirdest scale because I mean it had like a really interesting suffocating environment because it's like these two guys trapped alone on this dinky little island. And you talking about like the lighthouse house made me think of that movie because they're living in this like crappy little like leaking shack thing, and they get stuck there and they're totally isolated and they just start like losing their minds essentially. But it wasn't like scary. It was like this weird, creepy, like kind of homoerotic drama. And these guys are just like slowly descending into like alcoholism. And it just is like, it makes no sense. And it was just weird. It was the weirdest movie I've ever seen in my whole life.
Huh. Find that and watch it because that sounds interesting.
I mean, yeah, is very different. We'll say it was different. And I mean, the guys did a great job acting. They were fantastic, like for the parts that they were supposed to be playing. It was just weird. It's all that's running through my head as we talk about this lighthouse, as I keep thinking about that movie and how crazy it was. So.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So
anyway.
In 1994 is when the museum was open full time to the public. So they do have a museum that you can go in and see. They've got all sorts of different like artifacts that they found from shipwrecks, which I'll talk about in a little bit here, and just like the history of the lighthouse and how it came to be. So I think that'd be super cool to go and see because I just love museums and I like history. I just think it's fun.
Yeah, it is. And I've heard really good things about St. Augustine too. Like just the town itself, I've heard is really cool to visit, and they have a lot of other great museums and stuff there. So it'd be fun to go for like a weekend.
Yeah. So they keep the light burning as a private aid to navigation. So I'm assuming they just keep it going so that ships know where they are and so they don't run into the island, is what I'm assuming.
Yep.
They also maintain an active archaeological program that researches different sites along the coastal region. So they've discovered a number of historical shipwrecks and investigated a lot of other areas. So some of those sites include breakwaters, Plantation Wharf remains, and the lighthouse. I don't know what the hell a plantation wharf is. Like,
yeah, I was wondering that too. I don't know exactly what that means, but
is it like a house? I don't know. I'll have to do some research on it. It's a plantation wharf.
Yeah, I don't know, because a wharf is like a big like docking area for ships. So I wonder if maybe they had a lot of like plantation goods that were being transported in the area, and there was like a big shipping yard nearby that like collapsed or something. I don't know.
That could be. I'm not 100% sure, but I can
I'm just making things up, so I mean, we'll have to look into that.
Don't take everything we say as truth, people. Okay.
Lots of grains of salt.
Yes. Unless we're absolutely certain. But
yeah, which is rare.
So anyway, exactly. So the lighthouse, the program that they have is called the Lighthouse Archaeological Maritime Program. So they discover, present, and keep alive the maritime history. So the oldest identified shipwreck was discovered in St. Augustine. It was part of the sloop industry. So it was a British supply ship that was lost on May 6th of 1764 while attempting to make port. So attempting to essentially dock. Some of the things that they found on the ship were cast iron cannons, iron swivel guns, iron shots, iron anchors, millstone.
A mill, like a grinding millstone?
Maybe, based on my handwriting, I'm not fully sure. I think it's millstone.
That would make sense.
I'm gonna go with that.
Mill wheat into flour, right?
Sure. Yeah. And they found it was literally a list of like 20 things that they found on the shipwreck. It was crazy. And then in 2009 is when they found the second oldest shipwreck. It was a colonial sailing vessel known as the Storm Wreck. And it had scattered remains of cargo, ship equipment components, military hardware, and personal possessions. And they've also discovered all sorts of different shipwrecks and recovered a bunch of different artifacts from those shipwrecks and just literally like everything. So I mean, when you have shipwrecks, you have dead people, and then dead people turn into ghosts, which then these ghosts in this lighthouse, and that's why we're talking about it.
That's fascinating. So all of that like stuff that's been discovered has been managed by the lighthouse like museum like organization.
Yes, so it's the group that they formed, which is the Lighthouse Archaeological Maritime Program.
Yeah.
So they are the ones who have found like all of this stuff, and I'm pretty sure they have a lot of the artifacts in the actual museum.
That's really cool.
I think it'd be cool to see all the different things that they found too. It'd be awesome.
I know. I just love like the idea of like sunken ships and just like all that stuff being kind of like preserved in time. It's just so fascinating.
It's like with all the things from Titanic. Oh my God, I'd love to go see the Titanic Museum.
Oh my God, yes. Where is that located? I don't actually know. Do you know?
Isn't that in Wisconsin? Wisconsin Dells? There's something in Wisconsin Dells, I think. And there's another one.
Anna, it's Branson, Missouri.
Oh!
That's what it was.
I was way off.
It's okay. You know why you thought Wisconsin Dells? Because we went to Branson, Missouri for high school with show choir, and we also went to Wisconsin Dells for show choir. Yeah. So I was going to say, I feel like I remember something about a Titanic museum.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
That's hilarious.
So what do you got for some haunted stuff?
All right. So, to your point, when you've got a lighthouse with shipwrecks and there's deaths involved, it's no surprise that there's been a lot of reported paranormal activity at the lighthouse itself. There's also been a couple of deaths associated with the property. So people who have either lived at the lighthouse or were at the lighthouse when they died. There's a couple of those as well. So, if you guys are looking to do a tour at the lighthouse, they do offer nighttime tours where they take you through the lighthouse and share true stories based on the kind of like scary and like spooky things that have happened at the lighthouse. That's called the Dark of the Moon Ghost Tour.
Ooh, that sounds so fancy.
It's a very fitting name. You can also book individual paranormal investigation sessions. So they let you bring your own equipment or you can rent it from the lighthouse.
Perfect.
And then, Anna, this feels like such a missed opportunity because they offer private ghost tours that you can book for special events like birthdays or bachelorette parties.
Oh, God damn it!
That would have been so freaking cool to do for your bachelorette party.
We can pretend that we're not married yet.
And just do another one?
Yes.
Okay. I feel like I failed you as a maid of honor for not booking you a paranormal ghost investigation for your bachelorette party. Like, that should have been first thing on my list, and I'm so sorry.
I can forgive you.
Well,
Yes.
we'll just have to do this for a separate occasion then. I was like, oh my God, that is a genius idea. I can't believe I didn't think of that.
We can just do it for our birthday.
Yeah, perfect. It'll be part of our road trip tour of the country.
Yes.
All right. So there are a couple of notable spirits that are known to hang out at the lighthouse. So these ones have names and people have seen them frequently over the years. So there's the ghost of a man named Peter Rasmussen, who's one of the lighthouse's first keepers. And he was known apparently for having a very meticulous eye, so he had really sharp attention to detail. And he was also known for his love of cigars. So he's one of the first spirits that has ever been reported at the lighthouse. And most people who see him also report smelling the scent really strong, like cigar smoke smells. So that's why they think it's Peter, because he was really into cigars, I guess. So that's been reported for the site, even though no one else is smoking, they can smell cigar smoke. So another ghost of another lighthouse keeper, there's a man named Joseph Andrew, who is reported frequently hanging around the top of the tower, and he's often seen looking out over the rest of the grounds from the very top. I believe he died on the property, and I'm kicking myself in the shins for not writing it down. I don't know why I didn't. I'm pretty sure he died there. So he can be spotted looking out from the top of the tower. But probably the most famous deaths on the property and the most famous spirits are that of sisters Eliza and Mary. So they were the daughters of someone who was hired to renovate the tower in the 1800s. And one day that they were playing in like a little cart that was used to carry renovation materials back and forth to the lighthouse, and it like broke loose and started to slide down into the bay. So it like broke loose from the hitch. The girls couldn't jump out in time, and they both died in the water.
Oh no.
Sad, I know.
Sad.
So the girls can be regularly heard laughing from the top of the tower, and many others have reported seeing the ghost of Eliza floating around the grounds wearing the same blue dress that she died in.
No.
Poor baby. People report generally that the ghosts of Eliza and Mary are really friendly, though. They don't usually engage with people directly, but they're seen on the property quite a bit, and people hear them laughing and playing. So there's another specific spirit that people have reported seeing that is referred to as the man in blue. So I didn't really find out anything much about him in terms of like his origin or like who he was before he died. But people do say that he's malicious and he will follow people around. He has chased people down all 219 stairs from the top of the tower, which scares me more than anything in this whole world. Chased down the stairs, like all the way down 219 steps.
That's terrifying. Why does he have to be such an asshole?
I know. It's like, and he does it just, apparently he does it because he just likes to torment people. That's what people report, like feeling that he's just like tormenting them for fun. And that terrifies me so much, because if I'm even like walking up the stairs and Anders starts like play chasing me up the stairs, I lose my shit. Like the feeling of being chased, even if it's like my husband who's like jokingly coming after me, I'm like, no, it's scary.
Don't do it. I don't like it.
I know. It's just like that primal instinct of like something's chasing me. I need to freak out and run away.
Uh-huh.
So the man in blue has also freaked out one of the previous lighthouse keepers so badly that the lighthouse keeper actually left and refused to live there anymore. I don't know who the lighthouse keeper was or what his name was, but that's what it said. Oh, I forgot to say, I got most of my information from ghostsandgraves.com, ghostcitytours.com, and thelineup.com. So didn't figure out who the lightkeeper was, but apparently one of them left because the man in blue was such a jerk. And some people think he's the ghost of Joseph Andrew, the guy I mentioned earlier, who's one of the lighthouse keepers, but others think he's the ghost of a different lightkeeper who allegedly hung himself in the tower. So couldn't find a record of that happening, but I could totally see a deranged lighthouse keeper who committed suicide on the property just following and tormenting people for fun.
Oh, yeah.
So some other paranormal incidents that have been reported on the property, a lot of them have been reported by staff, which is pretty typical with places like this that are like museum and they give tours. The staff experience a lot because they're there like alone late at night. Mm-hmm. So some staff members say that they will often come into work in the morning and find the door to the top of the tower open. Even though they always lock it the night before. So just opens up overnight.
That's cool.
Yep. They also report chairs having been moved or overturned, and items would often go missing from the gift shop, only to mysteriously reappear later in a completely different spot.
Oh.
Which just sounds like kind of a nightmare for whoever's trying to like do inventory in the gift shop and like trying to keep track of how much you have of everything.
And things just go missing and then reappear, and you're like, God damn it, quit taking my shit.
Well, I know, and then you have to like, you're like, okay, did someone actually steal this? Like, do I report this as a theft, or is it just one of the ghosts being a dick? Like, I don't know.
That'd be so weird. All right. That'd be an odd situation.
Yeah, for sure. In the gift shop, also, there have been music boxes that will turn on by themselves. That's been reported by a few different staff members. So very creepy. Music boxes in horror situations always freak me out, and just imagining one turning on by itself. So guests who visit often report that while touring the lightkeepers' quarters, so the house where the lightkeepers would live, they will feel unusually cold, and some report seeing the figure of a tall man appearing before them and then just disappearing before their eyes.
Oh.
Yep.
I don't like that.
No. People also report seeing the figure of a man wandering around in the basement of the lightkeeper's house, and shadowy figures running up the stairs of the lighthouse itself. So ghost hunters went there, and they actually, did you know that Ghost Hunters got a reboot?
Yeah. Pretty sure I talked about it in like episode 3 or 4 or something, because I was super excited that it was coming back.
Holy shit, you're right. I completely forgot we had that conversation. It just like did not exist in my memory, and I was like, wait a minute, they got a reboot, like, and it happened in like September, and oh my god, I'm such an idiot.
Don't you? I know. I follow them.
Okay, but did you see the episode where they went to St. Augustine Lighthouse? Because they did in the reboot.
Pretty sure I saw it in their old episodes because they went there. Because I saw the pictures of it, I was like, oh, this looks super familiar. And I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure Ghost did this one.
They totally did, and they decided they wanted to go back there. So it's season 1, episode 3 of the reboot that they revisit the location, and they said they wanted to go back because they felt like it was one of the best episodes and like one of the most like paranormally active places they'd ever been, and they loved it so much that they wanted to come back, which I think says a lot because they've been a lot of places.
They've literally been everywhere.
Yeah. Like everywhere. So for them to say like, oh, this was like one of our most favorite locations we ever visited, we want to go back. I mean, maybe it's just because it was in Florida and it was nice, but they said it was also a lot of like activity that they caught, and so they wanted to go revisit.
And I think like they caught some good stuff from that lighthouse too. Like I want to say, I don't know if that in like their past episode, I think they may have gotten a shadowy figure like running up the stairs.
They did. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it.
Yeah. No, you're right. So I saw they took like a screenshot of the footage because in the original visit they caught there was 2 really creepy ones that I found. So there's one, and I think this might be the one you're referring to, where the camera, they're like standing at the bottom of the lighthouse and they're pointing the camera up towards the top. And there is a shadowy figure of a man like leaning over the railing looking down at them.
Yep, that's the one I saw.
Oh my god, it's such a creepy image. And then they like chase up after it because they're like, holy, and it's like running up the stairs. So I didn't like see it run up the stairs. They claimed they saw it, but I did see it like leaning over the balcony looking down at them, and it's terrifying.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and it's very clear. It's like clearly not a person, and it's clearly not just like a smudge on the camera. It's a very distinct like shape of a person.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. And then the second one is really interesting. It's I don't know if the ghost hunters caught this image, like they referred to it. I don't know if they took it themselves, or I think I read somewhere that like someone who was showing up to do like electrical maintenance or something may have taken the photo. I'm not actually sure where this one came from, but there's a picture of the lighthouse kind of from far away, and there's a silhouette of what looks like a woman wearing white with like long brown hair, just standing at the top of the lighthouse looking out to sea, and she's kind of blurry, and it's like clearly not a real person standing there. You can tell it's like something different, but it looks too much like a woman wearing a white dress for it to be like anything else. It really looks like a spirit like looking out at the water.
Oh, that's cool.
It is cool. And people have also reported seeing a woman in white in the surrounding woods as well. So it makes sense if like she's a character that people have seen before kind of wandering around the property, that the picture would be of her. So I watched bits and pieces of the revisit episode, the one from the reboot. I didn't watch the whole thing, but from what I gathered, they spent a good chunk of the return episode in the main stairwell. So they didn't see anything quite as intense as in the first visit, but they did hear like weird scratching sounds coming from the top of the stairs while all the crew was at the bottom. One of the crew members felt something like touching their leg while they were climbing the stairs, and he like majorly freaked out. And
I would fuck that.
Yeah. And he like legit turned around and was like, "Who the F touched my leg?" And they're all like, "Nobody, there's no one here." And he was like freaking out. And then they also saw some like shadowy figures, just kind of like they caught little glimpses of them walking around in the stairs. And then the next place they went to was the ankle thing actually reminded me of a story. I missed this one. So the staff at the lighthouse have reported multiple incidents of being touched or grabbed by unseen forces while giving tours. And there was one story in particular where a guy said they were in the basement of the keeper's house, and he was just like talking and walking, and he felt something grab his ankle, and like he almost tripped because it pulled on his leg so hard. And he said that like everyone started laughing because they thought he just like tripped over nothing and was like just being a fool and falling over for no reason. And he's like, "No, something legit grabbed my ankle. Like I'm not just tripping over thin air."
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so everyone thought it was like funny because he was just tripping over nothing, and he's like, "No, something definitely grabbed my leg." So,
oh God.
Which, if it's pulling hard enough to like almost make you fall over, that's clearly not just like a gust of air brushing against your ankle. It's like something touching you.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Sorry, okay, I missed that story earlier. So back to the Ghost Hunters episode. So they went to the Lightkeeper's house, and as far as I could tell, they didn't really like see anything there or experience anything really major, but they went back and were playing the EVP recordings later. And they heard a couple of EVPs that very clearly sounded like female voices. I couldn't tell if they were like maybe the voices of the little girls that died there or someone else, but it was like very clearly a female voice. I didn't really hear what it was saying. And then they had a point where one of the investigators was asking if anyone was there. And when they played back the EVP, all of them were like, "Oh, wow, I can hear it. It sounds like a voice saying yes." And they played the audio clip like 3 times. And like I personally didn't hear anything at all. I couldn't pick up anything whatsoever, but all 3 of them were like, "Yeah, I totally hear it. It sounds like a low voice saying yes." And I'm like, okay, well, I can't hear it. Yeah. So those are the main ones that I could find. There's a lot of interesting pictures that people who have visited the lighthouse have posted. So like a lot of places we've looked at, they encourage people to send in photos. So I actually have a link that we can post on the Facebook page to ghostsandgravestones.com, where people who've been to St. Augustine upload pictures. And there's a couple of pretty good ones where there's one in particular where it's like a picture of the woods, and there's like it looks like someone standing holding like a pole or a spear or something, and it's very much human shaped and very much like not a person. You can tell it's like a fuzzy figure, and there's a couple of pretty good ones. So I'll post the link, or we'll make sure to post the link so you guys can see it. But it's always cool when like other people who have visited the place end up seeing stuff too, not just like the TV people. So
right, not just the staff either, because then you know that other people are actually seeing this, and it's not just a conspiracy, that it's like the actual lighthouse just trying to attract more people.
Right. It's not just trying to like generate hype and like make it seem bigger than it is. So
we'll definitely have to go to this one.
Yes, we will. And who doesn't want to go to Florida? I don't usually need an excuse to go to Florida, but this is a good one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It'll be perfect.
If we ever get to travel again. We'll see.
We will eventually.
Yeah. So speaking of people reporting paranormal stories.
Yeah.
Send them in.
Send them in. Yeah, we want to hear them. We want to hear what you've dealt with, kind of spooky stories you have, or crazy cult-like activity maybe that you've been involved in.
Don't use a Ouija board, but if you have used one, what happened, and tell us all about it.
But don't actually use one if you haven't yet.
No, please don't. But if it's too late and it's already happened, tell us about it because I want to hear about it.
Yeah.
Send in your stories to nightmarenation19@gmail.com.
Or you can look us up on the Facebook, nightmare_nation19, or the Instagram, nightmare.nation19. I do
Let us know
believe.
what you think. Yeah, that sounds right. I feel like we should have this memorized by now. We say it at the end of every episode. I just can't keep them straight. You
So
guys
many
just
things.
look for Nightmare Nation. There's not that many other things with our name. It's kind of unique, and we think it's pretty clever. So just look for Nightmare Nation. You'll find us.
Exactly.
Sweet. Leave us a review. Let us know what you think. Suggest a location if there's a place that you are super passionate about or think is really creepy that you'd like us to cover. Let us know. We've gotten some great listener suggestions, so keep them coming.
Yeah. But until then,
stay safe.
Don't use Ouija boards.
And stay home for crying out loud.
Yeah. Stay home. Only go out for essentials. Be safe. And listen to our podcast while you're home.
Yes, absolutely.
So, yeah.
All right, friends. Until next time. Bye.
Have a great day.
Yep.